You've been there, right? Somebody, friend, coworker, whoever, asks you some annoying, aggravating question that really isn't seeking an answer, but is really more looking to highlight some flaw of yours or some failure. And what do they always say? Just curious. Just curious. They're not just curious. They're trying to say something, but they're using a question to do it. Don't be that guy. However, do be curious. I think that one of the more fulfilling traits of being a loving person is curiosity. To love somebody, you have to know them. The better you understand a person, the more fully you are able to actually love them. I don't just mean love them in the sense that you've got feelings about how this person is, but to actively care for their well-being, to desire their happiness. If you don't know what makes them happy, how can you make them happy? If you can't understand their joy, how can you share in it? To be loving is to be curious. One way that plays out is with what I call the interview game. This is something I developed for myself because while I'm totally comfortable standing in front of a large crowd of people just spilling my guts, on a one-on-one level, I'm actually pretty shy, particularly with people I don't know. So I developed this thing called the interview game. Here's how it works. Pretend that you're the host of some sort of a talk show and it's your job to interview the person. Imagine some of the all-time great interviewers, people who make their guest feel warm and welcome and comfortable and make the show all about the guest and find out what it is that's interesting about the guest and get out some of those interesting stories about them and get the guest happily being themselves. Johnny Carson was really good at this. Jay Leno was pretty good at it. Ellen today is one of the best at making a host feel like themselves so that they open up and do silly things and you get to know them better. So pretend that you are one of these masterful hosts and that you're interviewing the person. And you ask them questions. What do you do? What do you like about that? What's hard about that? Where are you from? And some of the first questions you ask are going to be kind of lame. But if you're good at it, you'll be able to ask follow-up questions that get to more interesting material. And the point is not to talk about yourself or to find ways of connecting your life to their answers. Just be curious. Be curious about their answers so that you ask more questions so that you can get more things to be curious about. You're looking to find powerful questions. This is something that I've blatantly stolen from the world of mentoring, the idea of the powerful question. How do you know you've asked a powerful question? You look at their body language. When you ask the question, do they break eye contact? Do they seem bored? Do they give a clinical answer? Are they relaxed? Do they tense up? Do their shoulders pull in? Do they open up? Do they start moving their arms around? Do they start making eye contact with you? Do they smile? Do they start talking faster and louder? Or do they start to quiet down? Do they take long pauses? When you ask a question that causes an increased physical response in their body language, you're asking a more powerful question. The most powerful questions will sometimes get you as an answer a long silence. Sometimes you'll get a long diatribe about their favorite movie or whatever it is, but powerful questions are the key to really learning about somebody else. It could be a stranger, it could be somebody you've known all your life. Now this gets me on another topic. You can be lovingly curious. Can you apply that to yourself? How about some self-curiosity? You should wonder about yourself. Take time every once in a while to ponder, why do I do what I do? Why do I react the way I do? What is it that I really care about? What is it that really bothers me? Why? Get curious about yourself and start asking yourself powerful questions. So, on the topic of powerful questions, here's a question for you. If you were sitting on the couch across from Ellen or Leno or from a best friend and they're asking you questions, what one question would you most want them to ask? That would be a powerful question that would get you full of excitement and happiness and joy. For instance, you want to get me going. Ask me about how I prepare barbecue. Seriously, you get me onto the topic of running a smoker, preparing brisket, comparing different regions of barbecue. I can get really into that. I get very energized talking about that. It's one of my favorite hobbies. And I love sharing what I've learned with other people who are curious about it. So on a real simple level, that's a powerful question for me. It's not a very deeply powerful question, but you will get a lot of energy out of me if you ask me questions that take me down that path. But this isn't about me, this is about you. What could somebody ask you that's going to get you excited, energized, jazzed up? Okay. I'm going to take it up another step. Beyond self-examination of you as a person, as an individual, here's a new thought. What about being curious about your tribe? And by your tribe, I mean just the folks you identify with, and you're probably a member of multiple tribes. Like, for instance, hardcore Texan barbecuers is a tribe. There are forums, and there's a lingo, and there's a culture, and there are expectations and prescribed behaviors. That's a tribe. My church community, that's a tribe. We have a family and a culture and a thing going on there. Your employer is potentially your tribe. Or if there's some other institution that you care about. Or it could be your nationality, your region of the country, your cultural or ethnic group, your socioeconomic whatever. Different people identify with different things. Think of some of your tribes and think about a tribe that you particularly care about and that you're proud to be a member of. And ask yourself, well, what would be an energizing question an interview could ask you about your tribe? Maybe your tribe is your immediate family. Those are the people that matter the most to you. What would you love somebody to ask you about your family? So, making things a little bit trickier now, what is the one question you do not want somebody to ask you about your tribe? What do you not want somebody to ask you about the people that you care about, love, identify with? If you're on the interview couch and suddenly the interview turns serious, what don't you want to have to answer? Why not? What about that question hurts, causes fear, causes you to tense up? Did you notice your body language when you thought about that question? I think it would be useful to take a moment and write down on a piece of paper, my name is, the question I would most want to be asked about myself is, one of my tribes is, a question I would love you to ask about my tribe is, a question I would dread being asked about my tribe is. And now, next to each one of these questions, you can either give, well, what is your answer to that question? Or, and I think this is more interesting to get curious about, lovingly curious about yourself, why does that question energize me or cause me to shut down? Okay, I got one more question for you, and you probably can see this coming. Step back away from the tribe now. Let's get personal. What is a question you don't want people to ask you about yourself? Not talking about one of those just curious questions, but if a close friend who knew you well were to ask you a serious question, what is the worst, most painful, most scary question they could ask you? What if it's a stranger asking that question? Maybe that changes it, maybe it doesn't. What is the hardest question for you to face? Why is that one hard? Okay, I don't want to just leave you wallowing in painful self-curiosity. This is supposed to be loving curiosity, and it has a point. Once you've got your list of questions, pick one of them that you want to spend time with. If it's one of the positive ones, just spend time enjoying it. Go out and talk to somebody about one of these things and ask them a question that will get a similar response. If you want to do the hard work, pick one of the negative questions about either your tribe or about yourself, and then examine why it's hard, and then come up with a plan to take some of the hardness out of it. Figure out what it is that makes that a hard question and change that thing. This is a path to improving yourself, and it's a hard one. But wouldn't it be great to take one of those questions that you don't want to answer and then change it to one that you would be totally okay answering? Give it a shot and tell me what your experience is like.